Do ghostly gunfights occur in this Wild West corral?
Are phantom horses really traveling these historic dirt roads?
Who or what is behind the lingering scent of gunpowder?
Find out the answers to these questions and more as we uncover the wild hauntings and history from OK Corral in Tombstone, Arizona.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Erica.
And this is The Haunted Atlas, a haunted U.S. podcast. In the interest of fully exploring history of certain locations, The Haunted Atlas may discuss sensitive or disturbing topics. Listener discretion is advised.
The OK Corral sits under the blazing Arizona sun, surrounded by weathered wooden buildings and dusty streets that seem frozen in time. Boardwalks creak underfoot as you pass storefronts that look much as they did in 1881. There's a stillness there now, but it's the kind that makes you feel like something already happened and never quite left. So I am so excited to be talking about Tombstone, Arizona. It is a place that's super quintessential to America's Wild West. Of course, the movie was made, titled Of the Town. And it's incredible, and it's one of my, bucket list places to eventually go to.
Wow, you know what? I did not put two and two together when you were saying you were so excited about this, and I just read Tombstone, Arizona, and was like, cool, okay, she must be interested. I forgot you're a Wild West movie fanatic.
It's great. I'm excited to be talking about this location, specifically the OK Corral, because that is the site of the gunfight at the OK Corral. I remember a couple years ago, I had rewatched the movie, and something I was interested in was just finding out more about the gunfight and how historically accurate the movie might have been. And what I thought was so interesting was that there are newspaper articles from that time period, the day after the gunfight happened, talking about it. I saw one from the New York Times. There's the Tombstone Epitaph, and the Daily reported on it. So it was widespread.
What year was it?
It was 1881 in Tombstone, October.
Is this the thing where we did that, simulator at the Route 66 museum? And you and David were like, why don't you know about this gunfight, Sarah?
Maybe
Okay.
It was this. Honestly, this is the only gunfight I know. So if I said that, it was probably this one. So as I said, October 1881, that's when the gunfight occurred. But our history starts before this, of course, with the move west. So in the late 1870s, silver deposits in Tombstone were discovered and led to a population boom in the area. Enough people had migrated over to the area by 1879 that the town of Tombstone was officially created in that year. As we've seen in the other mining towns that we've discussed, families and individuals were moving to the town to hopefully try their luck with the land's resources, but criminals, most often robbers, and cattle rustlers also came with them. Cattle rustling, by the way, just for those who didn't know, because I had to look it up, is just another term for stealing cattle or other livestock. And it's still around today, but with modern technology.
What?
I know. So people are apparently getting things like heavy transportation machinery or using online scams to do it.
Online scams to steal cattle.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, but I was looking it up. And I think some people still physically do steal livestock during live night heists, so that's
this
crazy.
Feels like a supervillain movie cartoon where they drop in and take the cattle and suck them back up to their spaceship.
Yeah, it's weird. But yes, I would have thought that crime ended a long time ago. But no.
And I know that in these boom towns, they were considered, in parentheses, lawless, because a lot of times it was the locals that determined how things were carried out.
Exactly. And speaking of that fact, crime gets bad enough in Tombstone in the early 1880s that the Earps, most famously Wyatt Earp, but also his brothers Virgil and Morgan, came to Tombstone to try to get the town in order.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Why? Just because?
I think so. I mean, I know at some point that they were against the law. I think at some point maybe they were. Also, if the movie is historical, you can kind of settle down in a town and make your living by restoring order.
That would make sense, because then if you have a jail and people are paying bonds and stuff like that, I could see it.
So their biggest problem was the Cochise County Cowboys, who had taken over the town with their criminality. And there was a county sheriff in the town already, John Behan, but he was honestly corrupt at this point. He had shared interests with the cowboys and specifically with Old Man Newton Clanton, who was like a huge rancher, and the illegal dealings on his property are what led to his wealth.
So I had never heard of organized crime in the Wild West. I wouldn't have thought that it would be so organized, and for lack of a better term, because it is always portrayed as such a lawless time.
Yes. And it's because of the cowboys specifically. I mean, I think out west in multiple towns, cowboys were organized and were a group of people who took over towns for their own interests. Things came to a head on October 26th, 1881. After a rowdy night on the 25th, and Virgil and Wyatt Earp pistol whipping Ike Clanton, who's Old Man Clanton's son, and Tom McLowry, tensions were high. Pistol whipping is when you use a pistol as a blunt force weapon, basically like bopping someone on the head with it, except more violent.
Yeah, I was going to say bopping someone on the head, I think, is a very nice way to describe it. It sends shivers down my spine to think about it.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, I can't even imagine. But yeah, so they did that. Tensions are high. In the early afternoon, all three Earp brothers, plus Wyatt's good friend Doc Holliday, who had also been tormented by the cowboys, walked down towards the OK Corral together to confront them. And a fun fact about this is the actual skirmish took place at an empty lot beside the OK Corral rather than in it, but the name Gunfight at the OK Corral has just stuck around throughout history.
I guess if there's no other landmark nearby.
Yeah. No one knows for sure who started it, but there were 10 men involved. Wyatt, Virgil, and Morgan Earp, Doc Holliday, Billy and Ike Clanton, Tom and Frank McLowry, Billy Claiborne, and Wes Fuller. It was a 30-second fight, and when the dust settled, 3 men had perished in the fight. It was Billy Clanton and Tom and Frank McLowry.
So is it like you see in the movies then where they all like pull their guns and fire really fast?
I assume if it was 30 seconds, yes, because that's what I've seen in the movies too.
Okay, I like that I couldn't say that without making finger guns.
Well, you just have to. That's necessary. Yeah. But
Also,
that makes sense because they couldn't tell who started it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's also wild that this guy that got hit in the head with a pistol the night before and probably has a concussion decided to go to a gunfight the next day.
Maybe they were trying to not have tensions be as high, so the pistol whipping wasn't as intense as it normally would. Do you know what I mean?
I just think that's your rose-colored glasses.
Maybe.
If you think about it, throughout history, there has been gun duels or gun fights to defend honor, so I think it probably came down to honor.
True. After the fight, the surviving Clantons filed murder charges, and there was an intense court hearing with many conflicting eyewitnesses, which makes sense. As you've mentioned a couple times, it was a lawless time, so I'm sure some people were on the cowboy side, some people may have been telling the truth, some people may have lied about the Earp brothers' side if they didn't want the cowboys running over the town, you know?
Mm-hmm.
After this trial, the Earps and Holliday were all acquitted. Of course, the Clantons refused to accept this and resorted to additional violence, and Morgan Earp was unfortunately killed during this time. This event is what led to Wyatt Earp, originally a lawman, heading out on what became known as his vendetta ride. Him and Holliday set out to raid various outlaw hideouts, especially the ones where they believed that Morgan's murderers may have been, which makes sense to me.
Yeah, but what a reaction. I was going to say extreme, but maybe not. Just quite a reaction. Like, me and my best friend, we're going to go ride out and raid these places. But I guess it does speak to the lawlessness. Right.
And the time. I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. It seems like an extreme reaction, but a time period appropriate response. By 1882, the Earps had exited Tombstone. The OK Corral itself ended up burning down very shortly after in the fire that took place in Tombstone in May 1882, but then was quickly rebuilt with the rest of the town. And then a lesser-known gunfight actually took place after its recreation in 1897. So gunfight at OK Corral is the big one, but there was a minor one that still made headlines. Jim Burnett was a local justice of the peace who had gotten into a dispute with another local, William Green. And Green unfortunately sought out Burnett and found him outside of the OK Corral smoking a pipe. Burnett was very unfortunately murdered by Green due to the dispute.
I was going to ask if they chose OK Corral for the gunfight because of the history there, but it sounds like this just was a general watering hole. And so that might be the reasoning behind the multiple gunfights.
I completely agree with you. I bet that there are more, or at least, and maybe not even gunfights, but just fights in general that obviously didn't make headlines because the times. But it seems like this was just a place in town that people hung out.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Earps and Holiday were searching for the cowboys, it seems like they just found them here, you know?
Right.
Today, the OK Corral is a huge tourist location, simply because for those who love learning about America's Wild West, this is a cornerstone of that history. However, although its history significantly draws people in, another aspect of its allure is the paranormal happenings reported here.
Hey guys, I'm Tommy from Tommy Cullum's Let's Get Freaky podcast, where we talk to real people and have real conversations about paranormal experiences, including ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, and all high strangeness, and even a little bit of conspiracy too. So if you enjoy these freaky conversations, check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And we're also available to watch on YouTube. Tommy Cullum's Let's Get Freaky.
With a history of gunfights and lawlessness, the energy at OK Corral is spirited. In fact, many think that spirits of previous visitors linger. Unsurprisingly, the hauntings here are tied to a history of gunfights. And with it, those that lost their lives in the gunfights. In 1897, there was the gunfight mentioned in the history section between two locals, Jim Burnett, the justice, and William Green. And Green shot Burnett outside of OK Corral while he was smoking his pipe, as mentioned. And I always picture intense showdowns, like the music playing. So I would love to know more about the actual situation. Did he just walk up and shoot him? Did he yell something? I guess we will never truly know.
Well, and the other thing I wonder sometimes is like, did everyone carry guns on them at this time, or would a justice of the peace not even be armed?
They probably did, if not for the lawlessness, for the environment. Because if you see a coyote, you want to be armed.
Oh, true. I didn't even think about like animal reasons to have a gun.
Yeah, like rattlesnakes, coyotes,
Oof.
Things like that.
Rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Allegedly, Burnett was shocked as well, and his ghost still haunts the area. He is said to be very shy, disappearing whenever people get close to him, and I wonder if this is because he's hiding as he wishes he could have hid in his life.
I agree, because think about when Green walked up to him, he probably wasn't expecting anything. You know, I know they had a dispute, but I'm also assuming people are not expecting to just be like murdered in cold blood in the middle of the day.
Right.
So he might, as someone's approaching him, just get scared and disappear.
Right, and I also wonder if when it comes to these gunfights, there needs to be something sort of official about it versus he's just relaxing and smoking his pipe. It feels like if it were a proper gunfight, for lack of a better term, it would be along the lines of let's meet at dawn.
Right.
Not you're relaxing right now.
Right.
Burnett is said to be identified as an apparition by his bald head and notable black and white beard.
What's great about this time period is that we are able to get the likeness of someone, even if the pictures may be right. And so these apparitions are actually able to be identified just by studying the history of the place, which is so cool.
Yeah, I think it's amazing when people can look at a photo and identify an apparition from it.
Yes.
While Burnett is known for his bald head, the next ghost is said to be known for their hat. This is a shadow figure, and the figure is said to wear a wide-brimmed hat. No one has identified this shadow figure, in part, I would assume, because it's a shadow figure, but many assume that it's one of the members of the original 1881 gunfight. The figure is seen in doorways and not in the area where the gunfight occurred, which is curious, but I think it's possible that it's someone watching the gunfight. It could be Burnett trying to hide and just presenting as a shadow figure to conceal his identity. It could be someone running from the law and wanting to conceal their identity. There are many possibilities here. What are your thoughts?
So many people in that time period wore wide-brimmed hats.
Right.
It's impossible to me to be able to put that to any person. It's possible it was someone from the 1881 gunfight. Like you said, it's possible that it's Burnett. There's no way in my mind, though, anyone could definitively say, I think it's this person.
Right, without engaging with the spirit further.
Right.
How could you possibly know?
No.
hanging out at a popular location in town does not make you very differential or unique.
Right. And if it is someone from the 1881 gunfight, it doesn't surprise me that they're inside.
Mhm.
They were probably inside when the Earps and Holiday like approached them, and maybe they went outside to do the actual gun.
That could be the case. Although the shadow figure is actually in the doorway, the site of the gunfight itself has its fair share of hauntings. There are reports of lawmen and cowboy apparitions roaming the area. It's as if they're overseeing gunfights even in the afterlife, or maybe they're waiting to participate in one.
If it's a residual haunting, it could be like the walk up, or
Yeah,
preparing for the fight.
it could be. Or I wonder if it's just apparitions. This is what they do. This is what they liked to do. I'm sure that there was some level of sport to gunfights back then. So maybe watching them or waiting to participate in them is fun.
Yeah. If anybody was able to identify like Earps apparitions.
That would be really cool. From what I saw, it's just unnamed lawmen and cowboys, and the differentiation is in the way that they dress.
That makes sense.
In addition to the visual hauntings, there are auditory hauntings. A common sound is the sound of horses, and it can range from galloping to whinnying to just trotting along. I couldn't find any reports of actual shadow figures or apparitions of horses, so it seems like a residual haunting to me, and this makes a ton of sense for the area.
Right. I mean, people took horseback all the time.
Right, and they would have had horses likely tied up right outside the building, so you would have been able to hear them from the interior of the building.
Animal spirits are always fun to hear about because we don't hear about them super often. So
I agree.
just having the horses there, that really, honestly, like ambiance-wise, would put you right back into the 1800s.
Right, I was thinking, what if they're playing a track of horses, but people report it around the clock?
Oh, okay. All right.
Because that would be kind of cool to get into the vibes of
Yeah.
the time period.
Yes, with all like the sounds and stuff.
Yeah. And while visitors hear the horses, at the same time, they report feeling cold spots. They apparently happen indiscriminately, even in the heat of summer. And I'm normally very skeptical of cold spots, but we are in Arizona in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
So to be feeling a cold spot, that's not the wind blowing the wrong way.
No, and intermittently in kind of at random times makes sense because horses are not on a routine. So if somebody's approaching the location that they're at, they may get closer to that person. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like just either because they think the person has food, or I'm sure some horses like to be pet, hopefully treated well back then. I don't know how realistic that is, but like just like getting closer to people. So it does make sense to me that a horse could be represented by a cold spot.
That is a good point, actually. And I think it could be an easy way for a spirit to differentiate themselves from the surrounding environment. Maybe they don't want to appear as an apparition or a shadow figure. Maybe a cold spot is the way that they can get the most attention, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
The final experience that visitors report is smelling gunpowder. And we always say on this podcast that it's important to be skeptical of scents because in porous materials, the scent can linger. However, if this only happens at certain times and does not correlate with anything else, it could be paranormal. I do want to add that if there are any reenactments or anything like that, if you're smelling gunpowder along with that, or even the same day, then of course it's coming from that. So I think it could be paranormal. It's not definitely paranormal.
Yeah, agreed. Especially because, as you mentioned, time of day matters. If it's happening at like, I don't know if anybody's there overnight, but if it's happening at like 3 a.m., that's when like the pressure drops in the air.
Mhm.
You're like more likely to smell residual smells from.
Right.
So it really does depend on the time.
Right. And we know that there were gunfights here. We don't know if people were loading their shells or loading their guns here. There could have been a lot of reasons for the scent of gunpowder to be quite literally rubbed into the materials of the building.
Yeah.
They do not have paranormal tours or investigations here, but they do have historical tours. If you yourself have been, we would love to hear your stories from OK Corral. You can email the team at hauntedus.com and include Haunted Atlas OK Corral in the subject, or find us on social media at HauntedUS. Tune in to the next episode to see where we drop the pin on our adventure across the Haunted US. This episode of Haunted Atlas was presented and researched by Sarah Sweeney and Erica Barrett, supported by research from Haunted US head writer Mitch Goth, with production assistance by David Sweeney and music by Colleen Johnson. Our executive producer is Brandon Rugsey. Haunted Atlas is a production of Haunted US. Visit hauntedus.com for more information.